There are some stories in Hollywood that nobody talks about enough. Stories so full of pain, so full of love, and so full of heartbreak that when you finally hear the whole thing, it stays with you for days. This is one of those stories. Robert Urich was one of the most beloved faces on American television. For 30 years, he showed up in your living room as the tough guy, the cool detective, the man who always had everything under control. But behind that calm, confident smile was a man fighting something nobody could see. And beside him every single day was a woman who loved him so deeply that even after he was gone, she kept fighting his battle until she could not anymore. What happened to Robert Urich and his wife Heather is not just a story about death. It is a story about what real love actually looks like when life gets brutal. Stay with us, because this one will break your heart and lift it at the same time. Before we get to the pain, you need to understand just how big this man was. Robert Urich was not your typical Hollywood star. He was born in a small, quiet town called Toronto in Ohio. Not Canada. Just a regular American kid with big dreams and the work ethic to chase them. He was athletic, smart, and driven. He earned a football scholarship to Florida State University, and while he was there he crossed paths with a young Burt Reynolds. The two became close friends, and that friendship would later change both of their lives. But football was never Robert's real calling. He earned his degree in radio and television communications and then pushed further, getting his master's degree from Michigan State. He worked at WGN-TV in Chicago for just $150 a week and even gave weather forecasting a try for a while. But the green screen was never going to hold him. He was meant for something bigger. His path into acting was not smooth. He actually got fired from his broadcasting job because his bosses found out he was secretly going to acting auditions on the side. That tells you everything about who Robert Urich was. He did not wait for permission. He just went for it. Once he got his foot in the door, there was no stopping him. He landed a guest spot on the FBI in 1972, and the following year, he got his first big lead role in a TV show that was canceled after just 6 episodes. Any other person might have packed up and gone home. Not Robert. That same year, he made his film debut starring alongside Clint Eastwood in Magnum Force, playing a motorcycle cop with a dark edge. He held his own next to one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, and people started paying attention. His old friend Burt Reynolds kept looking out for him and convinced powerful TV producer Aaron Spelling to give Robert a shot at a new action show called S.W.A.T. Spelling took one look at Robert and gave him the role immediately. S.W.A.T became an overnight sensation, but critics called it too violent, and by 1976 it was canceled. Robert did not blink. He kept moving. He then landed the role that truly made him a household name, playing the stylish private detective Dan Tanna in Vegas. To prepare, Robert packed on 40 pounds of pure muscle, going from 180 to 220 pounds to fully become that character. Vegas was a massive hit. It earned him 2 Golden Globe nominations and cemented him as one of the most trusted leading men on television. By the time he landed Spenser for Hire in 1985, he had become a permanent fixture in American homes. 15 different television series. The man was everywhere, and audiences could not get enough of him. But in 1975, something happened that had nothing to do with television and everything to do with the rest of his life. He married actress Heather Menzies. And if you think Robert's story is remarkable, wait until you hear hers. Heather was born in Toronto, Canada, to Scottish parents. By the time she was 14, she had already lived in Vancouver, Miami, London, and Southern California. At just 14 years old, she landed the role of Louisa von Trapp in the original Sound of Music with no formal acting training whatsoever. During filming, she even jumped into the water to save a young co-star who had fallen into a lake during the famous rowboat scene and could not swim. That was Heather, brave without thinking twice. She went on to build a long and varied career appearing in Bonanza, Logan's Run, Vegas, and many other productions. She was talented, warm, and deeply real in everything she did. Robert and Heather met in 1974 while filming a commercial where they pretended to get married. Life imitated art very quickly. They became a couple and married the following year. Together they tried to start a family, And this is where the quiet heartbreak begins. Heather suffered multiple miscarriages. They could not have biological children, so they opened their hearts and chose adoption. In 1978, they welcomed their son Ryan. In 1980, their daughter Emily. And then nearly 2 decades later, in 1998, they adopted a little girl named Allison. Robert was not just a TV father. He was a real one. Ryan later described how whenever he got in trouble at school, his father would come home, get down on the floor at eye level with his son, and instead of yelling, simply open the door to a conversation. He wanted to understand, not punish. That gentle, present fatherhood shaped those children in ways that lasted a lifetime. Then in July 1996, everything changed. Robert was in the middle of a strong career comeback, starring in a Western drama called The Lazarus Man that viewers genuinely loved. It had just been renewed for a second season. And then came the diagnosis. Robert Urich had synovial sarcoma, a rare and aggressive form of cancer that attacks the soft tissues of the body. The production company behind The Lazarus Man did not ask if he could still work. They canceled the show immediately. Robert was heartbroken and furious. He said publicly they did not even ask if he could continue. They just pulled the plug. He later sued them for breach of contract in 2000, and the case was settled privately. Even while battling cancer, Robert was not going to let that injustice go without a fight. But here is what makes Robert Urich truly extraordinary. While going through chemotherapy, losing his hair, enduring surgery, and radiation, he did not disappear from public life. He kept working. He kept showing up. He spoke openly about cancer, about early detection, about the importance of research. He received awards from the John Wayne Cancer Institute and the Gilda Radner Courage Award. Together with Heather, he established the Urich Fund at the University of Michigan Comprehensive Cancer Center. And after winning $125,000 on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, he donated every single dollar directly to the fund. Not a cent kept for himself. By 1998, something miraculous happened. Robert was declared cancer-free. He was named the national spokesperson for the American Cancer Society. He jumped back into acting, made his Broadway debut in Chicago playing the fast-talking lawyer Billy Flynn, and toured with the show through 1999 and 2000. He seemed truly unstoppable. He seemed like a man who had beaten the worst thing life could throw at him. But in November 2001, during an interview, Robert quietly mentioned that doctors had found new lumps. He stayed calm. He said a new medication was working, and he believed he would fight through it again. That was who he was. He did not perform his struggle for sympathy. He just kept going. But this time the disease was fiercer than before. His body had been through years of treatment and had become deeply sensitive. His son Ryan would drive him to chemotherapy appointments and take every single turn slowly, avoiding every bump in the road, doing everything possible to protect his father from pain. That one image, a young man driving with painstaking care so his sick father would not feel the road, says more about the love in that family than any words could. Just 1 week before his death, Robert was admitted to Los Robles Hospital in Thousand Oaks, California, with serious breathing complications. On April 16, 2002, Robert Urich passed away. He was 55 years old. Heather and their 3 children were by his side. A funeral mass was held 3 days later at St. Charles Borromeo Church in North Hollywood. His ashes were taken to the family's vacation home in Prince Edward County, Ontario, Canada, where a quiet memorial still stands today. On the Hollywood Walk of Fame at 7083 Hollywood Boulevard, his star continues to shine. For years, he was the only person with a last name beginning with U on the entire walk. After Robert died, Heather did not fall apart. She turned her grief into purpose. She founded the Robert Urich Foundation to raise money for cancer research and to support patients and their families. She had already survived ovarian cancer herself years earlier, which only deepened her resolve. She gave her time, her voice, and her energy to the cause completely. She carried both her own story and her husband's story wherever she went, making sure his memory meant something beyond the television screen. Then, in November 2017, Heather received her own devastating news. Terminal brain cancer. It came with almost no warning. Just 4 weeks after her diagnosis, on December 24, 2017, Christmas Eve, Heather Menzies Urich passed away at the age of 68. Her son Ryan said she was not in pain. At 7:22 in the evening, surrounded by her children, she took her last breath. She had lived fully, loved without limits, and fought for others until there was nothing left to give. The children Robert and Heather raised went on to carry that legacy forward in remarkable ways. Ryan, who had driven his sick father carefully to chemotherapy appointments and watched helplessly as the disease took hold, became an infectious disease specialist in New Mexico. He has said that he could not save his father, but with a medical degree, he could save someone else's. His sister Emily became an emergency room nurse. These were not random choices. They were lives shaped by watching both the brutality of cancer and the extraordinary grace their parents showed while living through it. Together, Robert and Heather funded the Eccles Performing Arts Center at Park City High School in Utah. A Robert Urich Scholarship was created in his memory. A highway interchange in his hometown of Toronto, Ohio, was named after him. And the Robert and Heather Urich Fund for Sarcoma Research at the University of Michigan continues to help families walking the same painful road the couple once walked together. Some people are remembered for the roles they played. Others are remembered for who they were when the cameras were off. Robert Urich and Heather Menzies are both. They faced the worst that life could offer and did it with courage, with love, and with their eyes open. They left this world having made it genuinely better. That is a legacy that no diagnosis, no cancellation, and no ending can ever take away. If their story moved you today, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And make sure you subscribe so you never miss another story like this one.